I'm Ajani Griffith, and welcome to episode number 7 of the Music Biz Club. Now, this episode is special because we launched the Music Biz Club Mixer Series. The whole idea when I first started the Music Biz Club was to create content for emerging musicians to learn from by me interviewing people who have done great things in the music industry. But then, a couple weeks ago, I thought to myself, why not do something greater than this? Let's start a Music Biz Club Mixer Series. On June 19th, we launched our event series, and I co-hosted with DJ Mad Linx, who was a guest interviewer for the podcast. He interviewed Marlow Rosado, a 2-time Grammy Award winner, as he talked about his experience in the music industry and his advice to emerging musicians. Nonetheless, thank you for watching and listening to the Music Biz Club, and enjoy this episode.
I'm one of your two hosts tonight. My name is DJ Mad Linx alongside.
And my name is Ajani Griffith.
All right, and tonight we are bringing to you a very special event which goes by the name of
Music Biz Club.
Toy store, whatever that was at the time. And she couldn't find the Tonka truck. But that's not what I saw under the tree. I saw this big box, right? So I knew it was a Tonka truck. On Christmas Day, when I opened it, it was an organ. And I wasn't even upset that it was an organ. You know, you figure, you couldn't get me a Tonka truck. Maybe you could have gotten me another kind of truck. So it was like divine intervention, right? Because she still, till today, can't tell me why she got me that organ when I wanted a truck. And so the minute I opened that, you remember them old organs? You press a button, it gives you a chord, and the minute I opened it, I started playing. I started playing Happy Birthday to You and all that stuff. So I've always played by ear. I actually started learning how to read music in college. So, I think your path is your path. And I wanted a truck, but somebody somewhere said, you ain't gonna get him a truck. It's time for him to start learning the craft that's gonna carry him throughout life, right? So I've been playing since I was 8, 9 years old. And this is the way I got into the music world, just by a mistake. Because if I would have gotten that Tonka truck, I would have been a truck driver.
So we have to thank your mother for making sure that we had
for making a mistake, for not getting me what I wanted.
All right. So now let's flash forward. The Grammys. Let's go to the first one.
Okay.
Talk to us a little bit about when you first sat down to work on that project that won you your first Grammy.
That was my second album. What I did, and I always like to sort of explain it like on the American side, because it's easier to understand. If you take a producer, let me not say young, but if you take a younger producer and he does things like Tears of a Clown and invites Smokey Robinson to sing it. He did his own version, but he invited Smokey Robinson, right? That's what I did. I took a bunch of old salsa songs from the 1970s and the early 80s, from the years of there was a record company called Fania Records. Some of the biggest salsa stars came from that record company, right? So what I did was I took songs from that era and I reproduced them in my own style. And then I reached out to the guys that were still alive from those years, and they all say yes. So my second album is called Retro. It's a bunch of songs from the 70s with the original singers, my own arrangements. I bought an old Fender Rhodes piano because that's how they used to record the pianos. Right? That's how I recorded the piano. And then once I finished recording the record here on Pro Tools, I took the sessions to Puerto Rico and we ran everything through the
analog tape.
Through the 1/4-inch reel-to-reels. So the sound of the record was retro, the instruments were retro, the singers were back from the 70s, and the arrangements were very retro. And so I submitted that to the Grammys, and it was nominated against Romeo Santos. Romeo Santos is probably one of our biggest artists, right? And he had his biggest record yet, which was Formula One. He just released a record with Usher, and now I'm nominated against this monster. It's like 4 guys and Romeo Santos, right? And while everybody is saying, hey, it's a win to be nominated, I've never seen a nomination as a win. A nomination is a nomination, and it's great. But the winner is the winner. And if you don't walk out of that day with the Grammy, you'll always be a nominee, which is great, but you're not the winner, right? I fought really hard to win that Grammy. And the great thing about the Academy, which is called NARAS, right, is that it's composed of your peers. It's not a popularity vote. You know, it's not like some of these votes where regular people vote. This is the Academy. These are your peers. So when the record is being listened to and analyzed, it's being analyzed by other producers and other musicians. And the good thing about that is that Romeo becomes a record. Retro, Marlow becomes a record. Everybody becomes a record. If you're nominated against Mark Anthony, anybody you're nominated, it becomes a record. It doesn't become a name. And they vote on the best record, on the best mix, on the best concept. So this Academy was able to recognize that this record was a real effort. You know, it was recorded on reel-to-reel. It was recorded with instruments from the era. Some of the biggest artists from the era came to sing the record. The arrangements it was a concept. And so on February 10, 2013, Romeo was combing his hair, getting ready to go up and win his Grammy, right? But I brought the Grammy home to Miami, so.
Hey.
Nice.
All right. And, actually, you mentioned best mix, and I just realized something. I'm being a very bad host right now because we do not have a Ziami cocktail up here for you. Maxwell worked so hard to make a special mix for tonight's event that I think we need 2 up here. So if we can get 2, I'd appreciate it, so that way we can keep Marlow's beautiful voice nice and
That's the last thing I got is that beautiful voice, but I'll take the drink for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about the songwriting process, because again, as Akil mentioned, we're here to help people who are musicians and who are trying to get in this business. Some may already be in the business, but let's give them from a Grammy-winning perspective. What is an average songwriting experience for Marlow Rosado?
So, I learned from a guy named Desmond Child. I've been working with Desmond for over 20 years, right? Desmond is the writer for Living on a Prayer, Dude Looks Like a Lady, Shot to the Heart, Living La Vida Loca. Some of the biggest songs in this country and just around the world have been written by Desmond Child. I signed to his company over 20 years ago, and I've been very tight with that crew for many, many years. I also sit on the Latin Songwriters Hall of Fame committee, which is a show that happens every year here in Miami. And one of the things I learned from him is that songwriting, and this is very important, songwriting isn't about the moon, right? You don't have to wait for the moon to shine a certain way to get inspired, right? Songwriting isn't about waking up at 3 in the morning with an idea and saying, this is when the inspiration hits. Songwriting is a job. And if I told Giselle right now, right, hey, I need you to write a song for this young girl, Sony just signed her, and we want to market her a little bit like Alejandra Guzman, which is a heavy metal Mexican singer. I expect Giselle to write a song in a day. I don't want her to tell me, okay, let me wait to be inspired and I'll send you a song. Okay, you go ahead and do that. By the time you send me the song, the record's done. You know what I'm saying? So songwriting is a job, just like everything else in the music business. That's one of the things we have in the music business that I wish many, many, many people can understand. We work. This is a job. We work. We want to get paid because we got to bring this money home and pay our bills, right? This is not something we do just because we love music. Now, we happen to be lucky. We work on something we love. And we go out there and we work because we love this, but we need to get paid. And songwriting is as much as a job as anything else. People take it for granted. Just because you sit there and words flow out of you, Shit, that's not easy, man. That's what we do because it lives in us. But you tell anybody, you sit down and try to write a song. People can't do that, you know what I'm saying? So that deserves to be paid. And when you speak to someone and when you tell someone write a song, oh shit, hold on.
That's what we're waiting on.
So what do we got here? This is a shot.
That is ZME Platinum Rum.
Okay.
Like you, it's award winning.
All right.
All right. So definitely wanted you to try that out. You know.
Look at this.
Hey.
So let's have the shot right now.
Absolutely.
Salud.
Salud, brother.
All right, take it down. All right.
Puerto Ricans love rum.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
We make it, right?
Trinidadians and Venezuelans do too.
Yeah, Puerto Ricans do love rum. We got the Bacardi plant over there. Actually, the Bacardi plant's in my hometown, Cataño. Yeah, that's where it's at.
And now the ZME one is here in your current
Miami,
hometown.
in my other hometown.
Exactly. Yep. So, in hearing what you're talking about, you know, so many people who are new to the business and want to get in, they hear the term producer, and sometimes I think they get it mistaken with somebody who produces a track more along the lines of making a beat.
Right.
Let's discuss a little bit about the difference between what you do comprehensively, and then just someone who is just like, yeah, I'm just making a hot beat that sounds like the Looney Tunes from the 2000s.
All right. So, listen, there's no secret. You know, I'm 50 years old. I'm an old school producer. I've been producing for many, many years. I produce a lot of tropical records. So I work with trumpets, with trombones, with piano, with percussion, with congas, timbales, bongos, with drums, with guitars. I work with instruments. I don't mean to, but I don't really look at programming beats as, I think that's maybe a very small part of the production process, where some people use that as a full production process, right? I think I have a master's degree in music ed, right? I can write, I can sit here and write for violins, for violas, for cellos, for basses, for trumpets, for trombones, for baritones, for saxophones. I could write for anything because I went to school for that. So my level of producing is very different as some of the maybe the reggaeton. But we also have to know that music moves and times change. I think there's always going to be a spot for me as long as I stick to my lane. I'm never going to try to say I produce urban music. I've worked with Cisco. I've worked with Drew Hill. I've worked with CeeLo Green. But I've worked with them at my level. I've offered them what I do. When they've come to me because they want to produce an amazing piano track, or they want some guitar work, or they want some horn works. I would never say to a guy like, let's say, you remember that song Beauty?
Oh, absolutely.
I worked on that track, that piano track, you know what I'm saying? I would never try to say to a reggaeton guy, let me do the beats for your record. It's not me, it's not what I do. You know what I'm saying? I stick to my lane, and as long as I stick to my lane, now I'll tell you what, in my lane, don't come trying to mess with my lane, because that's when you got to fight with me.
All right.
But I ain't trying to get in your lane. If you do urban music, that's your thing. You come to me like, and you know Vico C? Vico C is like the godfather of Latin hip hop. He's got his people. He's got people that produce his records. But on his last record, he wanted some live horns. He wanted some live accordions. He wanted some real instruments. So they came to me for that. So as long as I stick to my lane, I'm going to be the best at what I do in that lane. If I try to say, hey, let me do your beats, I'm probably going to fumble. And then I'm going to lose class, cachet. I'm not going to be the producer that I am, because that's not my lane.
Absolutely. Now, what I want to talk to you about is the shift that we've seen in the business aspect of the music business. So, meaning that when you first started, there were physical sales. People would go buy, whether it was an album or a CD, and this is how people would get the music. That later went on to downloading, and now we have gone to streaming. I want to know, has that affected your creative process, the way that people now get the music versus how they used to?
Yes, it does affect the creative process, because you have to capture the new listener immediately. Before, you didn't have to do that. Before you can have a great intro, right? And where now you can't have an intro to a song. You have to capture the listener immediately. Today's listener is very different. Today's listener's attention span is very, very, very limited. And if you don't have them hooked immediately, they go to something else. You remember pay-per-view? I think we live in a paper life kind of environment. We listen to what we want to listen. When we don't want to listen, we turn it off. We go, we search something else. We listen, we watch, we do whatever we want on the spot. TV is feeling the consequences. Radio is feeling the consequences because no one needs anything anymore. You want to listen right now. You want to listen to whoever you want to listen to. You pull up your phone and you listen to that person. It don't matter if you want to listen to someone like Miles Davis or someone like Alejandro Sanz or someone like Aerosmith. You pull up your phone and you listen. You no longer have, I come from a world where you used to have to wait for it to play on the radio. And then you had that tape recorder ready, and as soon as you heard your song, you press play and record, and you record the song. That's all over. All that.
But you said something here. You said pay-per-view. However, we live in a world where now you can get the music for free on YouTube.
Yep.
On Pandora, on Spotify.
Criminal.
The list goes on and on and on, where you're not paying. So how has that affected the music business?
For me, I'm a performer. So even though I have a recording studio and even though I produce for many different artists, I'm also a performer. I just released my 5th album. So I travel performing. I make my money on stage. I do make money producing, and my studio is busy, and I'm always, I have sessions and I have all kinds of, but the bulk of my income comes from being on stage performing. So I just released, like I said, my new album. If I'm really gonna sit down and try to live on the revenues of record sales, I couldn't buy a cup of coffee, man. It just doesn't happen anymore. People are not downloading. And there's no need to download. You pay for a service, Apple Music or any kind of these services, you pay a very small amount of money, and you can listen to music all month long. And that money doesn't get back to the artist. It doesn't get back to the writer. It doesn't get back to the producers. It just doesn't make it. There's not enough money. Apple Music and all these other music streaming services have figured out how to make the money themselves and pay you like 0.00001% of the streaming, which adds to nothing. Right. It adds to $7 a month.
So now, what is your recommendation for that musician who wants to get into the music business the way that it's set up now, in order for them to do this as a job, as a profession, being that, again, as you said, you might get $7 a month off the streaming services?
All right, so here's the best advice I can give anyone that's going into the music business. You're no longer a piano player or a trumpet player or an instrumentalist. You're gonna fail if you are an instrumentalist. You're gonna fail if you're an engineer. You're gonna fail if you're a producer. You're gonna fail if you're any one thing. In order to be successful in the music business today, you have to know how to play an instrument. You have to know how to run Pro Tools. You have to know how to engineer. You have to know how to produce. You have to know how to write to a certain degree. You have to be able to encompass the entire thing. Because if right now, and I'm going to keep using Giselle as an example because she's beautiful and she's right in front of me. If right now I write a song and I do a demo because I want to send this to an artist, and the artist is a woman, and I call Giselle and I say, hey, I need you to sing this song for me. I don't need you to come to my studio. I don't have time for that. I'm going to send you the track. I need you to sing it at home and send it back to me. I need her to be able to have that ability. When I send her the track, she needs to be able to sit at home and record the song for me. Send me back the vocals. I need to be able to put that in the Pro Tools files and send that to the artist right away. If she can't do that, I need to move to the other singer that can do that. So you want to be successful in the music business, you have to have a small setup at home where you can record, where you can engineer, where you can record your own instrument. You have to be able to go out there and perform. You have to be able to produce. You have to be able to just get your hands in everything. And I'll tell you one thing. When they ask you, let me ask you a question. You play piano? See, that's the wrong answer right there. Everything is yes. You'll figure that shit out later. You know what I'm saying? You play piano? Yes, I do. Can you record this for me? Yeah. I'll give you an example. I forget his first name. His last name is Booker. He's the brother of shit. Hold on, I'm drawing a blank. It's all these drinks.
Could it be Chucky Booker?
What?
Could it be Chucky Booker?
No.
Okay.
What's the reggae guy's name? Big, huge, the biggest reggae.
Bob Marley.
Bob Marley.
Okay.
Bob Marley's brother.
Oh, okay.
Richard Booker.
Okay.
Richard Booker comes up to me about 10 years ago and says, "Can you produce a reggae track for me with a little Latin flavor?" If I would have said no, I would have lost that job. But I said yes. I didn't know shit about reggae, but I said yes. So I went and found a Haitian bass player named Paquito, who was an awesome guy doing reggae. I said, "Yo, I need to produce this reggae track for Richard Booker. And they've already paid me. They've given me a deposit. I need you to do the basic reggae track. I'll add the congas and the Latin flavor to it later." I paid him to do the basic reggae track. He did that for me. He gave it to me. I added the Latin stuff to it. When I returned the track to Richard Booker, he went around telling everybody, "Yo, this man produced my latest reggae track." You know what I'm saying? So you can't say no. You got to say yes. And you'll figure it out later. Later, you'll sit down and say, "Okay, I just say yes to this. How do I do this?" You'll figure it out. There's always people that will help you do it.
All right. Well, listen, before we let you go, let's actually talk about your latest album and future projects.
So my latest album, again, very slick. What's the #1 movement going on right now? It's all this woman stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you saw the Grammys, it was very women heavy.
Yeah.
Everything is about women right now.
It was the year of the woman.
So what did I
absolutely.
do? My 5th album is called Feminomania. I recorded 14 songs, and every song is sang by a different woman, huge women in the tropical world. I can sit here and say the names, and unless you know some of the women in the tropical world, you won't know their names. But trust me, I have people like Albita, Aimee Nubiola, Erica Ender, who wrote Despacito. Some of the Brenda K. Starr, some of the biggest women in the Latin tropical world are on this record. So I jumped on it. If the woman thing is what's going on right now, then my next album has got to be all women.
Hey.
And so that's what I just did. I just released my Feminomania record.
All right.
And it's all women. And you know what? I did it because that's what's going on. But I think I'm also bringing a little bit to this movement. I just produced a record where I united 13 different women in one record. So, you know, it's a good thing. It's good all over.
That sounds awesome. You like to cross genres and blur lines musically, don't you?
I do. You know, we talked about a song that we haven't spoken about yet, which is Do a Little Salsa, right?
Listen, it actually is. So talk to us about that song.
So there's a producer called SL. He's a hip-hop producer. And we were working on a track for the Latin Songwriters Hall of Fame. And I said to SL, I think we should get together and do something, right? You bring your hip-hop, I bring salsa. We do a track together. And SL's a very talented producer, right? And so we did this track called Do a Little Salsa. Look it up. It's awesome. It's in English. It's a little hip-hop salsa track. It's doing great out there. And it's like a whole new sound. We produced that one. Now we just released the second one called San Juan. And you know, hopefully we'll end up with 6-7 tracks and eventually end up with a record.
All right. That's fantastic.
Very good.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Mr. Marlow Rosado.
All right, very good.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you very much.
Now listen, we're just getting started. We have many more artists that we're bringing up today and some performances. Are you about to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say one last thing before I go. I want to thank Akil, right? Because Akil reached out to me, and I definitely want to give him his shout out because I want people to support him. Yep. This is a great thing that you're doing, Akil, and thank you for reaching out to me. And you know I'm here to help you in anything you need, my brother.
All right.
And listen, another thing, you and I are doing a record together.
We talked about this.
We've been talking about doing a record together. And we're going to